Yes, I'm happy to be here with you guys with the start of our 2019 Masterclass series on your future. If you guys are like me, you probably started your company with the objective to keep the lights on and food on the table, and that was it. I never thought 15 years ago when I got my company started about where I was going, where the world might take me, what we might be doing economically, or even what the opportunities were. What I did know was I had to start looking like a company that was poised for the future. And so what I would like for you guys as we talk about this year is to not have an exit strategy. I want you to have an options strategy. And what I mean by that is, 33 years here. And what I found out is that you can prepare yourself and you can make a plan, but basically the plan will work as the opportunities come along. And you never know how limited those might be or how fantastic those might be. So what we want to talk about today is what some of those might be. This is the start of the year, and then we will proceed each month into what do you need to do to prepare? What does the process look like? What do you need to gather around you by the way of resources and people? What valuation looks like? So it's going to be a really action-packed year of talking about you, your business, your real estate, and how you are creating value in those things with everything that you do every day and what your future options are. I have been telling this story for 30 years, but I used to work with a really unique guy who always said, you're either green and growing or you're ripe and rotten. So my message to you is that you have to learn how to grow, whatever that means for you. Maybe it's you need more occupancy, maybe you need new programs, maybe you need another school or 10 or 20, but you have to continue to create opportunity if you're going to have strong people in your company and to keep them engaged and excited, and then you're ready for opportunity, whether that's more growth or an eventual go sit by the beach somewhere. So along with our masterclass, this is the content that we'll present all year long. So for people I don't know, and I think I know most of you, we have a couple of hundred people on here, and that's exciting. You guys are from all across the country. You're in different types of organizations. You're in franchise companies. You own your own companies. You own single schools or multiple schools, religious-based schools, Montessori, Reggio. And it's really exciting to have you here. Almost every state represented. We've got a couple of people from Canada and Europe. And love to have getting to know you guys this year as well. So let's jump right into this content. I will have about 30 to 40 minutes of content, and then I will leave room at the end for you guys to ask some questions so that we are sure that we are targeting this to meet your needs, to talk about the beginning of your future. And so please consider those as you go. Typically, we don't get to all of those, but that's okay. If we don't get to your question, we will answer it by email. You guys will get a survey at the end. We're going to ask for some feedback. Please be very honest with us. We put a lot of energy into trying to deliver information that's useful to you. And so we want to do that. We want to be sure that we're putting together things that are helpful for you in your life and in your business. Also, the question bar is on your screen, and you will see where it says questions, and put those in as we go. We'll connect with those at the end. So first of all, here's what we have prepared for you guys. We have a lot going on at Hinge. We've prepared some of our internal events to meet your needs for the year, and we're excited about those. We're also training for other people. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about how to get your company ready, what you need to do in a really quick format, because we'll dig much deeper into that in upcoming webinars. Then we want to talk about your business only. What are your options for eventually making an exit from your business? Next month, we're going to talk about your real estate. because some people don't realize that those are two separate assets, but they're both assets. There's value in the business you've created. There's value, obviously, people typically get that, but there's value in your real estate if you own it. So we want to talk next month about how you use your real estate to grow, but also how you use it to create value for yourself. And then we want to talk about what's coming up. So let's get into this. First of all, a couple of things going on at Hinge. Hinge makes its specialty into delivering financial and business information to the early education industry. Like I said, 33 years in the industry now, and one of the things that we have realized over the years is that there's a lot of educational content around your center operations and curriculum in the industry, but very little in business and finance. And because I'm an accountant by trade, that's what I know and love, and you start talking to me about numbers, I'm a happy girl. So all of the content that we put together and the resources that we put together relate to just the business and financial side of what you've created. I know that's not what most of you got into the business for, but it's my mission to create wealth for you, because I know how hard you guys are working out there. And I want you to be sure that one day you're able to realize on that investment that you made. I know that we hear from people all the time that they not only put all their money into an investment, but also they're signing their name at the bank. Those are risk producing activities, and we want you to be sure that at the end of the day, that risk was valuable for you. So first of all, this is our second year. I hate to say this is sold out, but it is, and I want to tell you about it. This is our second annual business and financial conference coming up next week in Austin, Texas. I'm just blown away by the people who are attending, by the people who are speaking, the content that we're delivering. So our content is also all around succession planning. We've got John Warlow as our keynote speaker, the author of Built to Sell. We have Roger Neugebauer, who is the founder of Childcare Information Exchange. If you don't get that magazine, it's a very valuable resource in our industry. He's also the founder of the World Forum on Early Education, which will be in China, which I'll tell you about next, along with a wealth of business early education operators who will talk to us about their school and cool things they're doing. So as soon as I tell you it's sold out and then I get you excited about it, I will say that every day, one or two people say, I don't think I'm going to be able to make it. So if you would like to come, please reach out to us and let us let you know if we have an opening. We've also had so many people reach out that we've gone back to the hotel and asked if we can comfortably put more seats in our conference hall. We want people to be comfortable. We take good care of people. We have yoga. We do healthy things and we do fun things. So we've got some fun events planned, and we want you guys to enjoy it. So we don't want to overpack it, but if you'd like to be there, let us know. We'll do what we can to accommodate you. Also, we're really excited that I, along with Kathy Petchel and Molly Petchel on our team, are going to the World Forum on Early Care and Education in China in April. We're excited to be speakers as a part of panels that bring people together from all over the world to talk about specific issues of things that are happening in their country to help build stronger systems for families and education for young children. Rhonda Paver with Stepping Stones Academy, who is one of our panelists, she's located in Austin, has made a very generous offer to our guests and our clients of a buy one, get one free ticket to the World Forum. If you really need a vacation and you think China would be interesting like we do, consider coming over and joining us in April. But I think it will, I understand it's a life-changing event and we're excited to be there. A lot of our clients are starting to do business in China. They have schools in the US, but also in China. So we're excited to see some of those and be a part of that. So, first message for you guys. I'd like for you, like I said, I want you to be poised for opportunity and not necessarily exit. So in my opinion, I can't really talk to you about your succession plan unless I talk to you about how to flourish and be financially healthy in the meantime. So in order for you to do well at your exit, the best thing for you to do is to consider an exit when you're at your height. Well, first of all, this is completely contrary to what everybody thinks. It's the day that a new school opens down the street and takes your director and 2 teachers and 20 children, and licensing comes in and somebody's on social media blasting you. That's the day that you call and say, get me the heck out of here. So it's contrary to what people think when they're doing really, really well to consider exiting their company, because that's fun, right? That's a fun time. And who wants to think about going then? Of course, that's your best opportunity for an exit and the best time for you to consider getting the best value for your business when you're doing really well. So we want you to learn how to be at your height. It's about certain factors and making yourself as strong as possible. And then building your bench. And again, we have a whole webinar on what things to put in place to be as strong as possible and to do in advance. But just to note that when you're at your best is the time to think about that. But I want you to be at your best always, not that you won't have hiccups. To be sure you're staying ahead of where the market is and what's going on and what you need to do to be a leader in your market and in your community. So first of all, as you're thinking about an exit, what things should you think about? So this is a quick hit that again we'll dig much deeper into. So what adds value and what doesn't? The first thing is to be fully enrolled. We are at a real economic high right now. People are working. Most everybody's occupancies are high. I hear across the country that infants and toddlers are booming in their waiting lists. I would say to you that if you're not pretty well occupied, I would look at what factors you need to shore up. Maybe bright and shiny and a new competitor has come into your market. That makes branding and your facility more important, and I'll get to that at the end. Maybe you need to consider something special in the way you market and special programs for children. And I have to say, though, that what used to make us special is sort of commonplace today, in that things like organic food or foreign language immersion or outdoor classrooms still have a little bit of sizzle, but in some markets, those are just standard features. There's certain things, CRMs and communication systems with parents. These are some of the things that make us a little bit unique, but in some markets are almost required before you're noticed in your market. But think about is there a leadership issue? Does your building just need a completely new refresh? What do you need to do to maximize your enrollment? Because people should be pretty full right now. Tuition pricing is important. And in a market like this, I get kind of preachy right here. And I gave this information to a group at the Georgia Childcare Association on Saturday. And I always have to say that I'm not unsympathetic to today's parent group. I have children who have children, and I know how difficult it is to afford quality early education with the other obligations they have going on. But now's the time for us to charge what it actually costs to provide the services we're providing. I don't have to know you guys to know that the majority of you are providing services that are beyond what your parents are paying for, in respect for those parents. But you're not paying teachers as much as you need to. Most likely a year or two ago, you had to start paying entrant teachers more, probably about 10% more. And that doesn't mean that just they go up. That means everybody in your building their pay has to go up. So now is the time to be very mindful of where you are in your tuition pricing and put yourself at a level that makes you financially healthy so you can reinvest in your building. You can hire higher quality teachers. You can take care of yourself. I say this a lot as well, but if you're awake in the middle of the night worried about the mortgage and the salaries, you are not doing any of these people you got in business to serve a favor. So care for yourself first. Be sure you're charging a fair rate. We have lots of strategies we have all of our master classes. We present once a month, and this is our 5th year, I think. And they're all available on our website. There's some great strategies to increase tuition prices, but also to look at things like the other things you charge for, registration, late payment fees, those things, but also discounts. This is big, and people miss this so often. They've got a lot of children in their building, and maybe even their stated tuition price is healthy. How many children are paying that price, and how many are you discounting? And you can get yourself in trouble really quickly. I'm not saying we are going to get away from discounting. There's certain ones that we're going to do as an industry. But take a look at that or reach out to us and ask us for that resource if you need some ideas there. But be sure your revenue stream is healthy. Be sure your management team is strong. And if you have a strong management team, they'll almost push you to keep changing. They want you to grow. They want to do more. They want to help. They want to get you there. Surround yourself with people who are smarter than you are and get the heck out of their way. So that's my strategy. But build your bench. And I know that's your number one pain point right now. It's hard to find good people. And again, I've been through different economic environments. Either we have lots of children and we can't find staff like we are now, or we don't have enough children and we have plenty of staff. I'd rather be where we are today. Our whole content on Masterclass last year was on staffing strategies, mainly delivered by our team member, Kathy Petchel. It's fabulous, concrete stuff you can do to hire the right people and keep the right people. So go back to those for last year and plug into some of those. And the last one I'll talk about is branding. But on branding, I mean more than your logo and your colors. What we want you to do is, I believe that a building needs to be redone completely and rebranded no more than every 15 years. Meaning new floors, new paint, new equipment, new. Because if you've been there a while and you're good, and parents know you and like you, but you're 30 years old and new and shiny comes in next door, new and shiny sells to people. And our national groups and a lot of the large regionals are building in new markets very quickly right now with new brands and new concepts. So be ready for that. So those are the things you can do. Also, I have some strategies to finance that. So don't think I'm just saying spend a bunch of money without ideas. So reach out if we can help you with some of those ideas. What doesn't add value? Again, I threw it out already. Look at the discounts. That's often a question we get asked in a transition. Yeah, but how many people are actually paying that? So pay attention to that. And then cutting small expenses doesn't help you that much if it damages your program. So run your business like you're always going to run your business, and you're constantly reinvesting and you're adding value to your people and your programs. Those are the things you continue to do that help preserve the value in your company. So we love our Hinge financial model. We have a model that, if you don't know about it, is built in Excel. And we can send it to you if you're an Excel lover like me, or we can help you with it, where you can put in your tuition rate, your license capacity, and the expense fields will populate and show you what you should be spending in each category. But what I want to say to you here, because that's not what this is about, but I have to keep this in front of you guys, it's not as complicated as it looks. Pay attention to 3 main things, and those things are: how full are you? Because if you're 50% full, no amount of cost control will ever put money on the bottom line and back into your business. You have to have a healthy occupancy. Second of all, what are you spending on your staff? And I'll talk in more detail about that. And the third one is, what is your rent or facility cost if you own or lease? What is that number in relationship to how much money you can make? That's kind of one of the things that people get in trouble with. It's difficult for us to get past. If somebody has overbuilt and spent too much on a building for the tuition rate that market can charge, that's hard for us to help people get around. But they're benchmarks that we like, and that's coming up next month in our discussion about real estate options. So those are your big three. So when you get this financial statement, I used to, hand financial statements out to 120 directors, and I would see their glazed over faces, and they would pitch it in the trash behind them. But get to know those big three, and really once you pay attention to the rent or building costs once, you're done with that. So be as full as you can and control your staff costs well. Everything else, occasionally I've seen somebody get in trouble with something else, but it's so rare. I don't even want to talk about it until we tackle those two. What I'll say on our staff cost is that at a certain occupancy, if you're at least 70% full, I think that you could run your salaries only at 45% or less. When I say salaries, I mean you're paying for a market rate director, assistant director if your school's big enough, all of the teachers, all of their pay, benefit pay, not payroll taxes, so that's different, but just salaries at 45%. As you get more full, that percent might go down because maybe you have to hire another part-timer at a lower rate, but typically you have your staff in place and you just maximize the ratio in each classroom. All-in staff costs, once you add in payroll taxes and benefits, and there's always something else, wonderful training, other nice things you do for staff, somewhere around 55% of your total cost structure. This is why this is so important. So you guys heard me say that I think you're having to pay about 10% more than you used to for entry staff. Well, you can't afford for your staff costs to go up 10% if they're already 55% of everything parents pay. Then you've got no profit on the bottom line, no cash to reinvest into rebranding and marketing and the things that drive your business. So this interplay between your occupancy, your tuition rate, and your staff cost are critical. And we're happy to look at numbers with people, give you a few factors, but learn as much as you can about how to manage that well. I wish I could launch into that right now, but not the, but anyway, point of this, be as financially healthy as possible so that you are poised when somebody knocks on the door and says, would you like to buy my school across town? You've got the cash from your financially healthy business to fund it, or you've got a nice looking set of financial statements to take to the bank to get a loan. Or when somebody knocks on your door and says, I'd really like to offer you a lot of money for your business. Yeah, maybe you would consider it. Maybe you're not quite there yet, but it's an options strategy. You're ready and poised for whatever comes your way. You could say no. I will say that when the doorbell rings or someone knocks, I always say, yeah, sure, I'll think about it and consider it. Every process you go through brings you more information. If you consider it today and you're 100% sure you're not going to do it, next time when you might want to do it, you'll be a little better prepared. So go through the motions, learn as much as you can. Okay, so what are your options for your business future exit? Well, option one, I know this sounds silly, but you could just close the door one day and say, that was fun, going home, had a good time, bye. You would be surprised how often we see this happen. So we will have an operator who had a phenomenal business. They decide to retire, they shut it down, and then all of a sudden we get a phone call that says, can you sell this building? Well, sure, but we could have gotten you a lot of value for your business as well. So the cash flow that your business generates is the basis of what its value is. So if you think about it, if you're going to put money in a savings account You want to judge what account to put it in based on how much money is cash it's going to earn you. Or if you want to buy stock, how much money am I going to make off of that? That's how every investor thinks. So if someone wants to invest in buying your business, the cash flow that it generates, you'll hear the term EBITDA. All it means is cash flow. I'll tell you what it stands for, but it's just a way people make themselves sound more important. The cash flow that it generates is the basis of the value in your business. So you want to be as financially healthy as possible. But if there's cash flow, you've got value. If there's no cash flow, you at least have some asset value in your equipment and vehicles and whatever you own. But don't ignore the fact that you've built a revenue stream and a cash flow stream that's got value. So consider your options long before you close the doors. Don't wait until you're not performing well. Sometimes we get the phone call with a health issue, and that's not something you can plan for. Have a backup plan for the operations in case that happens. But be sure that your business is secure. I'm going through some of these thoughts right now with you guys, and I'm just looking forward to the day. I'm building my bench. I've got great people on my team. They're fantastic. And the day that they say they're going to wheel me out on the stage to present one day, and that'll be fine because I'll be bored if I'm not doing that. But the day that the company can run without me will be a really fun day. I don't know. You guys probably have a little anxiety with that like I do. We'll grow together. Okay, second one. You could pass your company along to the second or third generation. This is often business owners' dream. We talk to a lot of people whose dream was to have their child take over the business. As a matter of fact, at our conference next week, we have a first gen, second gen panel. We have 2 first generation owners that are transitioning to the second gen, and 2 second gens who are taking over from the first gen. We'll see what they say about each other. I threatened to have the alternative gen in a closed up soundproof room so then we could talk about each other. But this is often people's dream when they get into business. It doesn't always work out. And we talk to a lot of people who are disappointed when it doesn't work out. This is why an option strategy is a good idea. And if you think about it, did you have the same dream your parents had? Why would your children necessarily have the same dream? It works out great sometimes, but not always. So it's a strategy, and it can be a good one. If you would have asked me 2 years ago if any of my children would have an interest in Hinge, I would have said no. They all have very interesting lives and work worlds that they love. And today, 3 of them are doing different functions for the company and doing a fabulous job. So I just try to, again, stay out of their way and let them do their thing. They might give you a different answer about me, but that would be different. So to pass it along to the next generation is certainly an option. A lot of times, and I love this one when it works out well, but there's some barriers to it. So a lot of times people will want to transition to the company to someone in their organization. It's often the director that helped them build the company. That's why I love it so much. Often there's a person in the company who never would have had the opportunity to do it on their own, and the business owner decides to transition it. The obvious barrier to this is whether that person has the economic means to buy your company or real estate. And this has some risk associated with it, as you can imagine. Most people end up financing the business or the real estate for that person, and then they're at risk of that person performing. I've seen this done really, really well. And again, when it works well, this one makes me really happy because of being able to do something special for that person. Again, flip side of that, risk, and the fact that once you exit, I don't want you to get your business or real estate back and wonder what to do with it. We want to know that the successor is either has a very good chance of being successful, or you have them take the whole thing, write you one check, and you go off to the beach and forget about it. But that's often people's desire as well. Another one would be to sell your business to someone who is new in the industry and wants to own your business. My only comment to this is, again, highly risky if they haven't operated in the industry. And even if they've operated it in some way but not been an owner, you want to be a little bit careful about this. So my recommendation for this for you is to sell everything, walk away, get all your cash, don't finance, don't lease your building. As we go through these strategies, I'm a big fan of real estate ownership. So your options increase depending on what your company looks like and who you're a target for. But if you choose to do this, and a lot of people also don't like to do this because they're concerned about confidentiality, as you'll see on the next option. I'm not one that really, I'm not overly concerned about confidentiality in a process, even if it's a competitor. We rarely have a breach, and to be honest, there aren't that many secrets. Let me just say that. I know you're doing great things, but there aren't that many secrets, and I think your opportunity greatly outweighs the risk. So I'm not so worried about that part of it. The next one would be to sell to a local competitor. So this is the one that really freaks people out. I don't want them knowing my business. They compete with me, blah, blah. Really? I don't know. Really, what is it they're going to find out? Maybe your personal friends. Maybe you just don't want them to see your financial statements. Okay, if you're serious about selling and that's your best opportunity, then maybe get over that. To be a little blunt. Your options increase. The larger your company is and the more profitable it is. So we'll go through that. Okay, the next one would be a national group. So here are the pros and cons of that. First of all, you need to be a target for one of the national providers. And let me just say that when I say national, that would also include large regionals. Maybe they have 5 sites or more. In our world, that kind of is a larger regional because we're so highly fragmented. But the national groups, the large regional groups, and the smaller regional groups are all doing well right now and all in growth mode. And acquisition is a great way for them to grow quicker than they can build a building. So most of these guys would prefer to buy companies with more than one school. And the logic there is just as much work to do one school as 5 schools. It really is. One transaction, more schools. Also, they gain good people that way, and they can enter new markets that way. So even going from 1 school to 2 schools is a huge leap in the value you can gain and the number of people that would be interested in your company. These guys typically want schools that are larger, except in certain markets, and I'll point those out. So typically capacities of 100 or more. In some markets like very big cities, New York, inner cities, or states like California where land is difficult and a premium and tuition rates are higher, you can be pretty successful with lower capacity. So there's some exceptions, but generally they want more schools than less, larger, at the top of their game in their market, and something they can transition. The other thing they want is to not have to replace the owner who is also the director. This is why build your bench is important. Because if you think about that, if you were going to acquire a school, you want nothing to change, almost nothing. Because parents are there because they're happy, right? So at least in the beginning, don't change a thing. You don't want the management to change. You want parents to come in the Monday after the Friday close and they see the same people, they go to the same class, they're doing the same thing. Maybe over time there's some things you want to work on, but in conjunction with people. So if the very dynamic owner operator who's also the director suddenly exits, not that it can't be done, but take special care for that. And that's why you build your bench. So those are the things that to be a target for a national operator you want to look for. The good thing about this is now you have options for your real estate. in my opinion, it's a lot easier to get a rent check every month. And I used to say go to the mailbox, but I don't even know if most people have a mailbox anymore. The rent check just goes in the bank. And if you have a mortgage, it goes out of the bank, and you're done. So we like to work out our leases in a format called triple net, meaning three things are the responsibility of the tenant, your new business owner. They will, of course, pay the rent, but they also pay the property taxes. They pay for the building insurance, and they pay for the bulk of the repairs. Sometimes they'll ask for things like your building structure, they want you to be responsible for, maybe the roof. If the HVAC units are older, sometimes they'll want you to be responsible for them for a couple of years, something like that, but minor. So again, the premise is that we want you to get a rent check and either keep it and have fun, go out to dinner, or pay your mortgage and go out to dinner. So I'm a big fan of keeping your real estate as a future retirement asset. And as you get to this size and this phase of your company, and you're a target for someone that's a little bit larger and less risky, it's how the world works, then you have more options for what to do there. My last one, I think, so private equity group. So let's talk about who these guys are. If you are coming to our conference next week, we have a lot of our friends from the private equity community there who want to be in this industry. So let me give the basics of private equity. Private equity means that it's an organization that takes the money of private individuals and invests it. They typically will have certain industries they like. They'll have certain investment criteria they like. And today, most of the top 20 companies in size in the US are already owned by private equity groups. Because somebody started their company and they were large enough to be a target for somebody to come in and say, this is my launching pad to grow a bigger company. So the threshold, it's been funny in my, I think about 2008 or 9, we really as an industry started to be noticed by the private equity community. Because believe it or not, we are a very stable industry. When other tech companies and things like that were going up and down and more risky, we stayed pretty smooth. We took some dips and, came back. But the community, private equity community, started to notice this. And as they noticed it, and I'm sure others, started getting calls, what do you have I can invest in? I want to buy a platform that I can then grow and build and have a larger organization and make it more profitable. When we first started this 10 years ago, they wanted 100 schools or more in a group, then bam. I think there are about 10 of those in the US. So as you can imagine, those got sucked up pretty quickly. I remember quickly after that when the threshold dropped to 50 and then 25. And last year, we put private equity into a group of 8. So we have put them in groups in the 20s sizes, but 8 was the smallest group. I have another group of 7 right now that private equity is very interested in. With the point being that if you have the right team and the right product or service and the right company, then you're also a target to be a launching pad for private equity. What this gives you the option for several things. You could partner with them and stay in and grow. They could buy part of your company. You could keep part of your company, and you could pull some money out, but continue to grow with them with a plan for them to take over more and more over time. So a lot of our clients that have grown quickly, it sucks up all your cash. I mean, you just continually reinvest, and that's a good thing. It's good to grow, but at some point people need help with that. We're either borrowing money all the time or we have no cash to live off of. So we want to take a little money out, but we want to keep some money in and grow. These guys can partner with real estate buyers, and they can take your real estate out. You can keep it in. So once you get to that size, then you have more options for alternative potential buyers for your business. This option gets a little more complicated, and we're happy to talk to anybody that would like about that. But that's sort of at the top of our game when you get to that place. And so what I'd like to do is get myself over to the question bar, and you guys will have to deal with me for just a minute because it always takes me just a minute to get over there. There we go. I've got it right here on the top. Okay. Okay, so good questions. Okay, so I've got a couple of people that would like our Excel document, and I have your email. If you asked the question but didn't send your email, send that over as well. And Carrie Pergerson from our team will get that over to you. What values are we seeing for businesses right now? So that's a good one. Let's just give a high level for that right now. It's kind of hard. It's a complicated question. I'll say in general that when I got started in the industry, well, we didn't really buy and sell things there. Let me just say in the last 10 years, we have risen in value, just basic business value, pretty tremendously. And then during 2018, that took even a notch up. And it's really based on the activity in the market and what things are being paid for on the national level. So you guys heard me say that the value from your business is based on the cash flow it generates. So step one, we're going to get into this in a lot of detail in a future masterclass. Step one is for the buyer to determine how much cash they will make on it when they buy it. So that might be a little bit different from what cash you're making. Maybe their rent's going to be different. Maybe they have to put in health insurance for employees and you don't. Maybe they have to buy new buses and you don't have any. So they need to determine the annual cash flow they're going to make off of it. And then it's multiplied by something. So there's the word multiple. A multiple is applied to it to give them the business value. So the multiple just means the number is multiplied by to get to the value. So the multiple is so widely variable. It varies from 4 to 14. And it's based on what market you're in, how much subsidy you operate, how old your buildings are, what your level of profitability is, how many schools you have, what type of program you have. It goes on and on and on. So it's impossible for me to apply all the values or all the factors and give you a real range. I will say that in today's market, we're on a real upswing. So us as a company, we are being pretty aggressive with that right now just to test the market. And then in larger assets, we don't even name a price. We just say, give us an offer. And we solicit offers. That's because we want to see how far we can stretch the market. So that's a very simple explanation of how that methodology works. But more on that coming up. Someone else wants the forms. There we go. Those are just popping in everywhere. Pay and job duties for directors. So if you are an owner and you guys heard me say how important replacing yourself in your business is. I used to say to people that your main job is to work your way out of a job. So when you're not needed anymore, and that's a misnomer, we're always going to be needed. This is not a business, nor is any business that you can ignore and let it run on its own. But for you to have people who replace you with that function and also with the contact, the day-to-day contact with families and teachers, that's the main thing you want to accomplish, because you want very little disruption in what's going on the teacher and family level. So you want that person to be, first of all, maintain relationships. So that's the most important thing. They need to be able to pick up the relationships that you might hold now with families and with teachers. You want to be sure that once you get that, I think you're about 80% of the way there. You want to teach them how to do certain functions that they might not be exposed to. Now, I'm not saying they need to run your payroll or run your financial statements, because that typically will always happen on an owner level. But they need to understand how to run the record keeping system in your school. Maybe you teach them how to run payroll. You teach them how to file reports. You teach them the licensing process. You're basically going to work your way through all of the functions that you provide and train that person, and then train the next person or have them build the bench behind them. Now, school across the street knocks on the door, one of those two people can go over, and you're elevating your whole bench and you're moving everybody up. So again, I love it when people are behind you saying, what's up? What's up? What can I do next? You'll find that you'll build a much stronger team, and they're much more interested in your company when you get to that place. So pretty high level there. Okay, lots more. We will get you that sheet. I hope you guys will give me some feedback after that. What would a transition process look like? So again, whole master class coming on this transition process, but let me talk about it in a broad way. So let me talk about it as you're buying a company. You can flip this over and you can be the seller in the company. But the first thing to do is be sure that you maintain confidentiality and you have certain agreements in place. So if we ever receive people's information only for us to evaluate, we always sign confidentiality first, just because I think every business owner should know that if their information goes anywhere, they should be protected. And I'm not going to share it with anybody, but I want them to know that it's important to sign legal agreements that say their information is protected. So if you buy something or you're selling something, be sure both parties that get each other's information have an agreement signed. And it's not just to say, I won't share your financial statements. It's to say, I won't try to poach your employees. I won't do you any damage. I'll destroy information in the future if we don't conclude a transaction. So there are a lot of things that it needs to say. So protect yourself first and the other party. Then you want to look at the value of the company. So the next thing is to determine the value. If we're working with a seller, we do that. We don't charge people to do that. We feel like it's part of our relationship building with that person, and we're not the best fit for everybody. So the last thing I want to do is charge you money to give you a valuation and then say, nah, I can't help you. I want us to decide together whether we're the best fit or not. Do you like what we have to say? Do you think we have possible buyers? And to be honest, my team's pretty busy in this crazy market. I want to be 80% sure that I have a buyer for you already. So that's kind of my benchmark, and we typically do. I mean, we have never gotten something under contract and not closed it. At times it's taken us a little while for different reasons, but we've never not closed something we got under contract, because we're meticulous about information and valuation and making a good match with the culture and the people. So, but to determine value and be sure that you're in agreement. Both sides agree that this is a reasonable value and we're in the right ballpark. If you're not, don't consider doing it. I regularly say to people, I hope you can get that for your business. Please call and tell me your success. It won't be from one of my buyers. That's not where they are right now, and that's okay. But I hope you can get that, because I don't want to waste your time. I don't need to waste my time. Be sure you're a good fit with that person. Once you've determined value, you need to get listed and with an agreement that if that person sells your company, then they get rewarded at what value. Then you're in a process that you want to be in control of. Know who they're talking to. If you're buying, at that point, you're just one-on-one with people. But be sure you know who's talking to who. There's a larger piece of information that you'll want to request at that point to verify income, that's so big, I can't even get into it, but there's a whole diligence process to go through after you've made an offer and it's been accepted. Of course, you have licensing and other regulations to transition. I do want to speak about the people transition and the critical nature of this. And we've got buyers, honestly, we have buyers that we don't work with anymore because we don't like the way they treat people, and it doesn't work for them. The difference in how they treat people in a transition is the difference in how well they're doing 6 months later and a year later. If they are not just respectful, but complimentary and inclusive and agreeable. And it's a hard process to go through a transition, never works perfectly. But if everybody's on the right side and there's good communication in place, you can get past those things. If there isn't, you're not going to be doing well 3 months, 6 months, 12 months from now. Excuse me. So the people transition is critical. So that's a very high level of what a transition looks like. Again, we're going to get into that in a whole lot of detail. On my slide with recommended expenditure percentages, where would you put advertising? I've often spent less on advertising when cash flow is down, but I found I regretted it because enrollments decline. I am so glad you said that. I almost said this earlier when I was talking about spending that's contrary to your logic. Actually, I was talking about selling that's contrary to doing really well. So our first instinct when enrollments are down, well, what's easy to cut in expenses? And advertising is really easy to cut, right? It's the complete opposite. So the percent of advertising to revenue is inverse. When you're at your height and you're 100% full, do some things to keep your name still out there. You should never stop. You're never fully enrolled. You should always keep going. But when you're down here, that number has to be up here, right? So it's completely contrary. The first thing I want to say to you is learn how to market effectively. So, you know, I go back to the days where we had one way of marketing, and that was Yellow Pages. And if you don't know what those are, ask your parents. We printed a book, and that's where the ads came from. Today, of course, it's much less expensive and much more effective to advertise, but learn the correct avenues for advertising. We have some great content on advertising within our organization. We have 2 consultants on staff, Molly Petchel and Kathy Petchel, and they both do phenomenal work in marketing. Kathy is our staffing specialist and also does some great marketing content. And Molly works mainly on enrollment and touring and secret shopping. And they both are just a wealth of information. You can get some of that from our website as well. But find out and be sure you're spending your money effectively. I think your most effective resources are going to be inside your house, training your people to answer the phone, how to tour. I can count on, I toured some beautiful schools last week. So now I've moved one hand to two hand. I have toured less than 2 hands of schools in my 33 years all across the country that gave me a blow away tour. How crazy is that? It's free. Do it well, engage your teachers, give information, connect, follow up. There's specific ways to do it. Our branding partners, Better Beans Branding, who we love, are going to be at our conference next week. They spoke last year, and I had to bring them back. They're doing beautiful work in teaching people, helping people through a process of determining who they are and what they believe in, and then helping them in the way they communicate that to parents and prospective parents. And one of those things is the tour. And they create tour stops in your building so that the person touring stops here and says, here is an example of how we partner with our parents. And it's written, or it's visual, or it's, you know, it's as simple as a coffee pot. We have coffee in our lobby for parents. Here are some of the things we do and believe in for our parents. We have these activities and these events, but it's a place to stop and pause and talk about that thing. So learn how to market well. Now I'm going to answer your question. As a maintenance budget for marketing, it's in my programming section. So financial statements can all look different. When you get it from me, it'll have all the details, so you'll get to see that. But for a maintenance marketing budget, I like 2% of your revenue. And again, if your revenue's down, that might be 5%. And if your revenue's at 100%, maybe it's 1 or 1.5. But about 2% of your budget, in my opinion, should be spent on marketing. I think I've got any more people wanting the Excel document. It will be coming your way. One more. Okay, I think I've got you guys. That's awesome. That means we did pretty well on this content. I appreciate you guys being here. I'm happy that you're thinking about your options for your future. I would encourage you to plug yourself into as much information as possible. Reach out to others. It can be a lonely world out there sometimes when you're in your day-to-day and teachers don't show up, and you've got licensing walking in the door. But also put yourself first. Care for yourself and your future. In the meantime, make your school and your world as financially healthy as possible so that you can care for those people that you got in business for through yourself, and put that first. Hope you guys are doing well. We'll look forward to talking again in the future. Hope you have a good Tuesday.